Limit tonight, just in. Sources telling CNN that the former President Trump, tried to call a member of the White House support staff who was talking to the January 6th committee. Okay? That is in addition to the person that committee co-chair Liz Cheney talked about yesterday at the hearings. Now, this support staffer was not someone who routinely communicated with him and was concerned about the contact, that's according to sources, and they informed their attorney. Like I said, the question is, who is going to stand up the next time? I tell you who could have. Mainstream Republicans who knew better. Conservative media who knew better. Mainstream Republicans who knew Trump's election lies were just that, lies. They knew. But far too many of them did not speak up, did not tell the truth. And remember, there was a time when Republicans knew exactly who was responsible for what happened on January 6th.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters. He should have immediately denounced the mob when he saw what was unfolding. These facts require immediate action by President Trump. Accept his share of responsibility, quell the brewing unrest, and ensure President-elect Biden is able to successfully begin his term.
Mm-hmm. Good evening to you. Ryan, I'm going to start with you. Tell us more about your new reporting that Trump tried to call a member of the White House support staff who was talking with the January 6th committee. What do you know?
Yeah, that's right, Don. This is reporting that Dana and I and our colleagues Andy Greer and Zach Cohen were able to officially confirm tonight. And we do want to make clear, this is the same person who Liz Cheney talked about at the end of the January 6th Select Committee hearing on Tuesday, who they said were so concerned about this interaction that they referred it to the Department of Justice because they feared that it could be an example of witness intimidation. And we're learning more tonight about why they had that concern. This individual was someone who worked in the White House support staff, so not a member of the political unit of the White House, but a professional staff member who was there to support the services necessary at the White House. And it is someone who would not be accustomed to receiving a phone call out of the blue from someone like the former President Donald Trump. It was someone who knew Donald Trump but did not have a personal relationship with him in a way that they would just get a phone call unprompted. And the timing of this phone call is important as well. It came just a couple of days after that bombshell testimony from Cassidy Hutchinson, the former aide to the White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. And we're told that this individual could corroborate parts of Hutchinson's testimony. And that's why they were so alarmed when they got that phone call from Trump. They immediately passed that information along to an attorney. That attorney gave the information to the committee, and the committee has then handed it over to the Department of Justice.
Ryan, so, with this new reporting, you have this, the committee has given this information to the DOJ. Is it clear if it will go anywhere? Because how can something be witness tampering if the person never picked up the phone? I mean, possibly intimidation of some sort.
Witness intimidation, witness tampering is a federal crime. If you have a corrupt intent in trying to persuade someone, sounds familiar, sounds like someone we know, Don, and the focus of it is to try to intimidate them in terms of their testimony, that's a crime.
Yeah. Thank you for talking about that. I have to get you because I know that this is important to you. I want to turn to the fight for abortion rights, if you'll allow. The Columbus Dispatch, I think it was a Post-Dispatch report, reporting that a man has been arrested and charged in the rape of a 10-year-old girl who needed to go to Indiana for an abortion. Now, after President Biden referenced this case in a speech, right-wing voices for days said that it wasn't real, right?
Yes.
I want to get your reaction to that, Senator.
To me, for anyone that doubted this and were listening to those sources or saw something online that doubted this story, it's now there in black and white. It's there in print. This happened. A man raped a 10-year-old girl, and this girl got pregnant. And so what kind of country are we living in right now where you require a 10-year-old girl, because of this Supreme Court, because of justices that Donald Trump put in place, because of extremist justices that were put on that court, what kind of life do we live in right now where this 10-year-old girl had to go to another state to get an abortion? I think the vast majority of Americans who already know, 80% of them support codifying Roe v. Wade into law, 70, 80%. depending on what the numbers are, they would never want this to happen. But that is the result, this patchwork of laws that we're going to see across the country, where we're seeing women and girls have less rights than their moms or their grandma. So for anyone that doubted this story, it's now right there in a criminal complaint. This happened.
Yeah, but you are, before I let you go, you are co-sponsoring this legislation that would safeguard women's right to cross state lines to seek
Exactly.
health
A
care.
girl, a woman, and this is something Catherine Cortez Masto,
But what about
incredible
these states trying to
former
criminalize
prosecutor, has
that?
put in place. And this would allow women to safely travel back and forth to go and seek reproductive care without being the fear of being prosecuted, which, by the way, bills have been introduced in states like Missouri that would make helping someone to cross lines be a crime. And that's why it's so important to put these protections in place.
Thank you, Senator. I really appreciate
Thanks,
important
Don. It was great to
conversation.
be on again. Look forward to
Absolutely.
seeing you again.
Thanks. You as well. Ron, let's start with you right here. You heard what I said about this person.
Yeah.
Why on earth would the former president be calling this person now?
It's certainly, out of the ordinary, right? And we heard from Ryan and Dana, I mean, a big reason why, which would be that this person would be in position to corroborate part of the testimony that we heard about what he was doing, in particular, potentially on the day of January 6th itself. Look, this is the way Donald Trump has operated his entire life. I mean, he has pushed at every vulnerability in the legal system and believed that in the end he will always get away with it. And, what we are watching, I think this is just another reminder of all of the big overall point that the committee is making, I think, to the American public is not only whether this guy committed a crime, which they are making a case for, but also, is this someone who you feel you want to trust with the power of the presidency, given the way he used it when he had it, and now even after, when he doesn't have it.
He believes that he should
Yeah.
have it. Do you think that they will be able to connect back to the pressure campaign in Georgia, connect Trump back to that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to let the lawyers. I'm not a lawyer by trade by any stretch of the imagination. I'm going to look ahead and continue to try to do the best we can do here in Georgia and run the state. But it's certainly been troubling to watch. I think it's also been troubling to see how coordinated and how much planning went into the lead up from the November election through the January 6th unfortunate events. It's certainly troublesome.
Ron Brownstein, despite all the evidence, despite all the testimony from mostly Republican witnesses showing Trump's multi-pronged scheme to stay in power, you still have some, like GOP Senator Tom Tillis refusing to say Trump is responsible for January 6th. I find it interesting because, you have people like Liz Cheney and a few other Republicans who are standing up. And Lieutenant Governor, you are one of the lawmakers who stood up to Trump early and called out his pressure campaign on states like Georgia. Fast forward to where we are now with the hearings. Would you have expected to see more Republicans joining you and Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger?
Well, I think there certainly is a growing number of Republicans and exponentially growing. I mean, this is painful to watch. It's part of the healing process for Republicans. But I also think this is a big time for change in America, right? I'll cite the New York Times on Monday. I think it's over 2/3 of Democrats don't want Joe Biden to run again, right? I mean, look, the former last two presidents in our country are now going to be not at the top of the ticket. And, I don't think we actually see them run again as president. I think the Democrats are going to wise up and find somebody more competent. I think Republicans are going to wake up and get somebody that's more focused on solving problems instead of their ego. And hopefully I think that's better for America.
We shall see. Look, I find it also frustrating. This is an interesting thing for me. Perhaps one of you can respond to this. Is that people, especially Democrats, are so happy with Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and the Lieutenant Governor. And the moment they do something or say something that is conservative, like Liz Cheney supported, the law for, banning abortion, and Democrats got mad at her. You cannot expect Liz Cheney to all of a sudden overnight become a Democrat. Right? Republicans are going to be Republicans. Conservative Republicans, thoughtful Republicans are still going to be true to their values.
Right.
They're not going to become Democrats.
It would be great if we could get back to the point where we are having disagreements about policy.
Policy.
But right now we are at a point where a big portion of the Republican Party, the dominant faction in the Republican Party, is not committed to democracy in the way that we have known. I mean, there are election deniers on the ballot for key offices, Republican nominees in Pennsylvania, in Nevada, in Michigan, in Minnesota, still to come maybe in Arizona and Wisconsin. The lieutenant governor's successor, I mean, the person that the party nominated in Georgia to succeed the lieutenant governor is an open election denier who was part of the fake elector scheme. So we are at a different place at the moment. It'd be great to get back to those arguments.
Go ahead, Lieutenant
Yeah,
Governor.
and I don't think Americans want either party to be in the extremes. I think they want people to actually solve real problems. I mean, here we've just been 7 minutes into an interview and we haven't talked about the highest inflation rate ever, or at least in my lifetime. I mean, we have real problems. Americans are worried about paying for gas and groceries and small businesses. And that should be what our leaders in both parties are talking about. Those are the real issues that matter. The rest of this stuff is just it's just
January
partisan
6th matters.
Politics.
January 6th
Well,
matters.
yeah,
That's
certainly
right.
getting it right. But we don't solve problems. We should take our medicine as Republicans. We should take our medicine as Democrats, show up to work and actually get things done for Americans. That's what we're hired to do.
Thank you both. Wait till I read this tease because we're going to talk about exactly what you said. Some of it. Thank you. I appreciate it. President Joe Biden ran in 2020 on uniting a divided country. Now he's admitting that he still has work to do. President Biden in Israel tonight on his first presidential visit to the Middle East, sitting down for an interview with Israel Channel 12, talking about why he ran for president and whether he's accomplished his goals. Listen.
I was running for 3 reasons, and no one in my campaign agreed with it. I said, number one, to restore the soul of America, to get back to who we are as a people and the way we talk to one another, the way we treat one another. The second thing was to rebuild the backbone of this country, the middle class. When the middle class does well, everybody does well. The poor go way up and the wealthy stay wealthy. And thirdly, to unite the country. I still haven't accomplished the third piece, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Joining me now, CNN senior political commentator and former Obama senior advisor, David Axelrod. Hi, David. Thanks for joining.
Don, good to see you. Yeah.
So let's talk about all the things Biden's facing now. Bad economy, pandemic that won't quit, a war overseas, major fault lines here over gun rights, abortion rights. How is he going to unite the country in the next 2 years?
Yeah. Well, no, it's going to be difficult. And I think right now his task is to create a choice for the country. If he goes into the fall election with this set of facts or this set of indices, it's going to be a very difficult November. He has to create a choice for people, and he has to make clear what the Republican Party is offering. And that by its very nature involves being a little more contentious, more comparative, more challenging. So, I have no doubt that this is what's in his heart. He is, by his very nature, a conciliatory person. He's worked across party lines for half a century.
But is that reality right now? Is that realistic right now? Because, listen, I'm not saying that the country shouldn't be united, but I don't think the country wants to be united. I think people are dug in on both sides.
Don, I think there are a lot of people in this country who want to see people working together. I think there are a lot of people in this country who are alarmed by the shrill voices. But I also think that the parties themselves are not in that place, that the activists, particularly the politicians, are not necessarily in that place. Joe Biden was elected because he stood for that. That's what the country voted for. But right now, some of those things that he most values are not what's needed. He needs to be more contentious. He needs to really draw the choice for people. But I will say this. Say what you will about cooperation, bipartisanship, and so on. He's gotten more done than anybody thought he would. The infrastructure bill. He obviously got the Rescue Act. He got the gun bill. He got some things done, and I think he deserves credit for that. But there is a big stark choice now, and it goes to the sort of tone and tenor of the parties and what the Republican Party stands for. The Republican Party that exists today is not the one that Joe Biden grew up with all those decades in the United States Senate.
That's certainly right. Listen, I'm not sure if he was elected in large part because of unity. I think that I think people wanted sanity, and they wanted a steady hand. And I'm not sure if unity, how high up on the chart unity was in the polling. But listen, I want you to take a look at Biden, what he's saying about a potential rematch with Trump. Here it is.
Are you predicting a Biden-Trump rematch of 2024?
I'm not predicting, but I would not be disappointed.
You will not be disappointed. So you look forward to that rematch?
No, look, the one thing I know about politics, and American politics in particular, is there's no way to predict what's going to happen. I'm not even halfway through my term yet.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of room to figure out what's going to happen.
Well, listen, one thing he said is true. I mean, it's hard to predict, but the thing is 64% of Democrats say that they want a different nominee in 2024. He's got an uphill battle with his own party before he'd potentially battle Trump for the White House again.
Yeah, and Don, look, discontent is not unheard of among Democrats or Republicans when the president isn't doing well in the polls and you're headed into a fall campaign. We felt some of that when I was in the Obama White House. The fundamental thing I'd be worried about, that those are large numbers. 64% is a large number. But then also when they asked people to volunteer what it was that they objected to about Biden, the people who said they did want him to run, a third of them, the largest number, said age, that he was too old. That is not a political problem. That's an actuarial problem. Mm-hmm. That is a problem that's not going to get better. He's not going to get younger. We know that. That's a political prediction one can make. And so that's the thing that he has to confront when he makes this decision. And he's got time to make this decision. But yes, presidents have fought back. None of them have been, in their 80s when they did it. Mm-hmm. And that is a concern that he has to address. And I think it's frankly a difficult one.
Well, Reagan wasn't a spring chicken. I mean, I was alive for that.
Reagan was younger when he left office than the president is now.
But he's having issues.
And and there were concerns about Reagan at the end of his term. Listen, I think Joe Biden is I think he is in command of what he's doing, and we've seen it on Ukraine and other issues. He's offered strong leadership, but when you are going to face the voters and ask them at 82 for another term, and you're going to be closer to 90 than 80 at the end of that term, that is a very, very difficult case to make. And ultimately, he's going to have to confront that question. Yeah. It's not like other presidencies.
Yeah. Well, let's just put even with the headwinds, he still leads Trump by just 3 points, 44% to 41%. And the headwinds, and with all of the bad news with the economy that he has now. So we'll see. You're right. Can't predict it. Thank you, David. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
History in the making at the Capitol today. Maybe I should say herstory. The unveiling of a statue of civil rights pioneer Mary McLeod Bethune in Statuary Hall, the first Black American honored with a state commission statue in the hall. Can you believe 2022, the first African American? Each state gets to choose two statues. Bethune's is from Florida, and it replaces the statue of a Confederate general. Bethune was born in 1875, the daughter of formerly enslaved people. She was an advisor to 5 presidents and an educator. Her statue includes a cap and gown because she was the founder of a school for Black children that later became Bethune-Cookman College and then later Bethune-Cookman University. There are statues of other distinguished Black Americans in the Capitol, such as Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. But Bethune's statue is the first of a Black American to be commissioned by a state and erected in Statuary Hall. But the fact is, there are still statues of Confederates inside the Capitol for now.